Discover how to become a lazy CEO and delegate like a pro in today's episode with Jim Schleckser. Jim Schleckser is an accomplished leader, entrepreneur, and CEO coach with extensive experience across diverse industries. And he's the founder and CEO of the CEO Project, a renowned executive coaching company specializing in high revenue entrepreneurs. So, Dr. Jim, please tell us about how can entrepreneurs become a lazy CEO and learn to delegate like a pro.
Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu. Mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services.
Well, thanks for having me, Lily. The title of the book, The Great CEOs Are Lazy, is designed to be provocative because people think, well, if I'm a CEO, I got to work like 80 hours a week. But, that's actually a myth. And it's a myth that we all propagate, that activity and progress are related. And it turns out they're not particularly related. And I really figured this out by interviewing thousands of CEOs. And what I found is the ones that were really good didn't work 80 hours a week. They worked 50, 60, depends on what was going on, sometimes a little less. And they had a very specific technique that they used to reduce the amount of time that they spent. And that was, it turns out that they were using something from an Israeli physicist, a guy named Eli Goldratt. Goldratt developed this general systems theory called the theory of constraints. And he said, in any system you can name, there is a kink, a point of constraint that controls the performance of the entire system. So the simple example is a garden hose. Garden hose, if you're trying to water your garden, if there's a kink in the hose, the kink controls the performance of the entire hose. So your job, everybody knows, find the kink, open it up, and then the hose works properly and can do what it can do. Same thing's true in your business. And that's what these CEOs figured out. They said, somewhere in my business, there's a kink. There's a point of constraint. And all my job is as a CEO is to find the kink and open it up. And if I consistently do that, the business performance will go up and up and up and up. And I get great performance. And all I have to do is find the kink and open it up, find the kink and open it up, and just repeat. And that'll drive performance. And all the other stuff that we do as CEOs is kind of, not as important as finding the kink and open up. What Goldratt actually said was all work not at the constraint is wasted. In other words, it's useless. Now, I won't go all the way to useless, but less important for sure. And so they go, well, now I know that I'm spending 20 hours a week at the most important thing. All the rest of the stuff, not so important. Let me figure out how to get it off my plate somehow. And that's what shrinks the hours to something rational, but they still get really good results. So that's the trick. Now you don't need to buy the book.
Thank you. So tell us, how can entrepreneurs find the kinks or the things that trip them up that stop them from becoming someone who can work less and do more?
Yeah, that's the secret, and finding is probably harder than fixing. But it turns out that the kink lies in one of a couple of areas. So one is your business model. So what you do for whom, the margin you make, the amount of recurring revenue, and more recurring revenue is always, always, always better. The amount of capital you need, hopefully less, not more. And if you get a high margin, low capital, high recurring revenue business, you've got a great business. So the only other thing in there is an amazing offer. An offer that if you put in front of a client, they go, well, I'd be silly not to buy from you. If you can refine your offer to that good an offer, you've really got something. So business model's one. The second is talent. So, we all hire people and sometimes we accommodate them, but it turns out that the quality of the people drives the business. We had one CEO we worked with that said, businesses don't grow, people do. So as your people are developing, growing, and becoming better, your business will grow at the same time. And so being really clear about bringing on the right people, coaching and working with the people you have, and frankly, if somebody's non-performing, moving them out of the organization or to another position where they can be successful, is all around talent. And then the third is processes and systems. So this is the how we do what we do. And in the early days, we tend to throw talent at problems, like just hire another person, right? Let's just throw people at it. But that's not how you build a big business. That's not how you build a gigantic business. What you have to do is figure out how to grow the business, and you don't need more people all the time. The systems, the methodologies are efficient, and you get more out with the same number of people. And if you get that, or something that's completely disconnected from how many people you have, now you can grow a really, really scalable business. And unfortunately, designing systems is kind of not very sexy. So most entrepreneurs don't like spending time on this one, but it can bite you in the backside just as easily as the other two. The final one, which I don't talk about as much, is how I engage in the business as a CEO can be a problem. And what it means is if I've got this mentality of being a small company and I have to do all the things, you're never going to get to the point where you can bring in a team, delegate to them, let them do their magic, and you keep elevating what you work on to higher and bigger and better things. If you're not able to do that, then you, as a CEO, are actually the point of constraint. And I think about like old school telephone operators. If you remember the pictures, they'd call and they'd plug in the connection, Mr. Smith, Mr. Jones. It was all guys in those days. Well, like one operator can only handle so many phone calls. But if as CEO, everything's coming to you, you can only make so many decisions a day. And when you're out of capacity, business stops growing. So you've got to find a way to not do that. That's an example of one way of you becoming the point of constraint.
Thank you. How can you stop being the point of constraint when you got used to making all the decisions?
Yeah, that is super hard. It's a great question because, you have to hire really good people and have confidence to let them do the job. And when you've been so dependent on your own ability and nobody else for a long period of time, it's very hard to let go and release. But it's like one of those forks in a road as an entrepreneur that if I can find a way to do it, I get to keep growing. If I can't find a way to do it, I'm going to doom the company to not being particularly big. So it's a very personal thing. It starts from inside, your confidence and willingness to trust other people to do their job and hire really, really good people. And part of that is, when you hire somebody who's maybe a better finance person than you are, it can be very threatening as a CEO, but yet that's exactly what you have to do. Hire people that you go, okay, I could actually learn something from the person who works for me. Then you've got a great person on your hands.
Thank you. What's the best way to to create standard operating procedures?
I actually think in the order of those things, talent comes before process. And there's a great line from Bill Gates. He says, if I've got a difficult job, I give it to a lazy person because they'll figure out an efficient way to do it. Really high performers hate processes that make them do rework and make mistakes. So you give a process that's a bad process to a really high performing manager or leader, they'll go through it once or twice and they'll go, okay, that's a horrible process. I'm going to fix it. And so I find people that are intolerant of inefficiency and intolerant to making mistakes are really good process people because they go, we're never doing that again. We're going to fix it. And they do. So I don't know that we have to fix it as CEOs. We just get somebody good and say, hey, by the way, the processes are horrible in this area of the business. And one of the things I hope you do is to make them amazing. Because right now they're terrible. And they go, got it. And they go fix them for you.
Thank you. Are there any particular systems that can be used in order to record the particular process? The reason I ask you this, because I saw there are some online platforms that can enable you to record a process that you do and then kind of to then have a video for the thing that you're doing. But what they do is that you don't actually have to even be mindful of that. You just kind of go through your normal process and then it kind of creates that particular structure for that particular task. So I wonder if you're suggesting anything like that, or there's a better formula that I'm not aware of to create standard operating procedures?
I think that's when the process has been refined. I think that's an amazing tool. Once we've really got it tight and right, then using screen recording or AI to analyze is great. But I think you have to look at you have to map the process and think about every single step. You have to be a really difficult, like, does this actually add value to our customers? In other words, if I went to my customer and I said, hey, by the way, we do this step. Do you find any value in that? And if they go, well, that's super important to us that you do XYZ, they go, okay, that one keeps. But I guarantee there's lots of things that we do where a customer, if they knew we were doing it, they go, why do you do that? I don't care about that stuff. Those should go right on the chopping block immediately. So I think you got to clean up the process first. Then a tool like you're describing will be awesome for documenting it and recording it and teaching people with it.
Wow, that is so fascinating. I hadn't thought of that. Because, for example, let's say if I'm doing a podcast, right? There are like, I'm not sure if hundreds, but definitely over 50 tasks that I'm doing behind the scenes. I wouldn't dream of like asking a customer, do they want that? But there are, of course, some back-end tasks that to do anyway, and you figure out what needs to be done, and then you kind of create the script for that, the script and the standard operating procedures. But there are some tasks that are directly impacting the customer and for which this would be useful.
Right.
Tell us more about what else entrepreneurs need to do to become so comfortable with their tasks that they are able and comfortable to reduce their working hours from 100 hours a week to 50 hours a week and still manage to do the kind of tasks they would normally do. And I'm talking, for example, people that, let's say, have a 9-figure business or 8-figure business or a multiple of these where they have 9-figure, 8-figures, 7-figure business in, like, let's say seven businesses. There are some entrepreneurs that have those kind of businesses and are so used to working even 17 hours a day. And I know someone like that. And it's so natural to them that they're kind of like used to it. And of course, I'm sure they hate, working 17 hours a day. I mean, I'm just assuming. What can people like that have literally like so much work to do? Like imagine an Amazon type kind of guy that, has so many plates to spin.
Yeah, I don't think Bezos works 17 hours a day, by the way, just to pick on him.
Okay.
First of all, if they're working 17 hours a day and they've done that for extended periods of time, it's a little bit of like a therapy thing, but they like it. Don't think they don't like it. They do like it. They must be getting some kind of psychic or ego or other kind of reward from being, 17 hours a day, and they may not want to change. That's the first issue. You actually have to want to change. But if they, sometimes it's a health thing. Sometimes it's the business. I can't handle the business. Sometimes it's a relationship thing. And they go, okay, I need to shrink. And it goes right back to look at the talent around you, because part of why you're working 17 hours a day is you've not hired talent at the right level so that you don't have to work 17 hours a day. If you said, I'm going to, for the next year, do everything I can to reduce my hours to 8 a day, hire amazing people, give them every task that they could do, that I am not the only person on the planet that could do this task. I delegate it to them. I bet after a year of that, I bet after 6 months of that, you'd be down to some rational number of hours. And so I'm sure that, there's like this relationship, codependent relationship of you, if you will, of working 17 hours a day, and the decisions I make around the people and the level of delegation, those two things go together. If you make different decisions around people, meaning better people, be intolerant of anybody who's not amazing in your business, and delegating aggressively, like I got to a point where when something showed up on my desk that I thought somebody who worked for me could handle this, I got like mad. Like, why is this on my desk? Why are they giving this to me? There is no reason for me to handle this. They can absolutely handle it. And I would immediately push it off my desk. So if you start getting mad about why is this here? And if you go, oh, because I really am the only one who could possibly handle this task, fair enough. Then it belongs there. But if the answer is, geez, my CFO, she could probably handle this, then bam, let her do it. And over time, you get better, particularly if they get good results. Then you go, wow, that worked. The world didn't blow up. The company didn't go out of business. Let's do more of it. So it's like a habit. The more you do a habit, it becomes a characteristic. So those would be the two: talent and delegation, because nobody should be working. I got to tell you, I've worked that much. At the end of the day, I could barely tell you what my name was. I mean, you're not at your best at the end of 17 hours. You're just not. So.
Thank you. What habits, routines, or apps can be leveraged for entrepreneurs to make the most of their time and become a lazy CEO?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm big on to-do lists, whether you do that electronic or on paper or whatever. And there's sort of the longer range to-do list. These are the things I got to get done in the next few months. And then there's what do I need to do today? So when I'm in a very tight crunch, I'm very clear about the 3 or 4 things that I absolutely must complete today. I write those down usually the night before or the morning of, and then I will do nothing else until those 4 things are done. So you got to prioritize the critical items, and then you can go fiddle fart around and do all the other stuff on your list. But the 4 things got done. And even if that means I only work 2 really good hours, but the 4 things got done, then I put it down as a pretty good day because I moved the ball forward in a really big way. So long-term to-dos and daily to-dos I find to be really effective at keeping me focused. I also play games with myself. Like I give myself a reward if I work on a task I really don't want to work on very much, whether it's take a walk, eat some jelly beans, go play soccer, whatever. I like, okay, if I finish this task, I'm going to get to go do something I want to do, right? And I'm going to go online shopping for 15 minutes or whatever my thing is that makes me happy. And I find that to be effective. It's very simple, but we're all simple people at heart in terms of reward and so forth. So do something hard, get a reward. That is always successful for me. I also try to, when I've got a longer project, it's a multi-hour project. I'll go, all right, I'm going to work 45 minutes hard, and then I'm going to take 15 minutes and I'm going to go just chill or watch cartoons or walk or just clean the bath, anything besides work, right? And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do 45 minutes hard and then take 15 minutes off. And I find giving yourself breaks can actually maximize your productivity versus trying to bang it all the way out across a long period of time. At least for me, that doesn't work. So those are a couple of techniques that I use. And of course, I'm a fan of ChatGPT like everybody on the planet probably. I do a fair amount of article writing for certain businesses that I'm involved in. And it is amazing. You say, hey, write me an article as though you're a safety expert on the impact of lighting on tractor trailers and the improvement of productivity of drivers when properly lit to OSHA standards at the 8th grade level, 800 words. 2 minutes later, it's there. You edit it for 5 minutes. Now you've got an article. Could you have written an 800-word article in 7 minutes? Not a chance in the world, but you can when you use AI as augmentation to your work, so I find that to be very effective. And I've got some clients that are, they are AI ninjas in terms of leveraging themselves. So that'd be the other obvious tool that people should be using.
Thank you. Are you recommending that instead of working, let's say, 8 hours a day, you would work 45 minutes and then 15 minutes of fun stuff, and then again 45 minutes and 15 minutes of fun stuff? Is that how you create your day so that you are motivated to produce the best in those 45 minutes of every hour?
That works for me. And the only other thing I'd say is when I'm in what they call flow, meaning I'm just focused and it's coming and I don't limit myself to 45 minutes. If it's just really working, I'll go whatever amount of time till I go, okay, I'm kind of losing the thread right now. Time to stop for a little while. But if it's something hard and I'm just slogging at it, then I use the 45-minute technique. When it's just coming and coming and coming, and I'm in the moment and it's good, I'll go longer when it's like that. So I don't limit myself to 45 if it's flowing. If it's not flowing, I go, I'm going to gut it out for 45 minutes and then I'm going to take a break. So it depends on how am I engaging with the work.
Thank you. What guilty pleasures do you indulge in that really stimulate your work? What I mean is, like, do you do something like out of this world that enables you to kind of, like, let's say you have to make a really tough phone call or a sales proposal or something, and do you kind of motivate yourself with doing something really special that kind of gives you the energy for the next 45 minutes of work?
Yeah, broadly, I love exercise, and a lot of CEOs do, and I play soccer. And the reason why I love that as my exercise is because you can only be in the moment when you play. I can't be thinking about anything else. You have to be in the game, thinking about the game. And so it allows my brain to process in the background. Like, I don't know it's doing it, but it's working. I know it's working. But I'm focused on the game. I find that a real good release, because when I come back to the work, I'm fresh. So I find that to be really good. And the other thing I do to prepare for difficult conversations, for example, that you brought up, is I'll game out the conversation in my brain. So I'll go, okay, I'm going to say this. She's going to say that. I could say these three things. This is the most productive. Her response is going to be this. Okay, then I'll go. So I would literally play the whole chess game out. So when you get into the conversation and they say what you expected them to say, more or less, you go, okay, I know exactly. I don't have to think about what I'm going to do. I already know what my response is going to be. So I find negotiations, difficult personnel conversations, buying a company, sales calls, I'll always game it out in my brain before I go in and have the conversation. It's not the first time I had that conversation. I had it 10 times in my brain before I have it one time in reality.
Thank you. What can perfectionist entrepreneurs do to manage the game they play in their head regarding, am I doing enough? So for example, you mentioned how you set out the 4 things that you want to do for the day and you get them done and you feel satisfied. Now, for a perfectionist entrepreneur, they may set out to do 100 things in a day and they'll perhaps only do 4 and they'll feel really bad about that. So what mindset shift needs to happen for these perfectionist entrepreneurs so they can become a CEO that is happy achieving 4 great things and be happy about that?
Yeah, it is hard, but I think it's about discriminating the value of each task. Not all tasks have equal impact, right? This is my comment earlier about the myth of activity versus progress. Of your 100, there's a handful that really make a difference. Like they will move the business forward in a big way. And the rest, to tidy things up and make them the right way and keep all the boxes stacked up. Yeah, it makes our little OCD brains happy, but they don't actually move the business forward. And so you've got to really, again, it's the internal game. If you can get your head around, I moved the ball forward with the 4 or 5 things I did, and that's the most important thing. And all the others, they're satisfying some other need, but I'm not in service to the business. I'm in service to the little gremlins in my head or whatever they are, right, that cause me to be like that. You got to do the internal work, and then it shows up differently. If you don't do the internal work of like, why do I need to spend time on these little tasks that make me feel good but don't move the business forward, you'll be trapped. So you really have to get inside your own head on these things to be effective, I think. And that sounds like therapy almost, but it kind of is. If we get our heads right, then we can perform at a very high level, I think.
Thank you. How do you overcome mindless social media scrolling? So let's say you use TikTok as a way to learn different things about AI and other things. How do you go from, let's say, using it as a tool to learn, to then kind of getting caught up in this social media scrolling, and then you kind of end up, scrolling for 2-3 hours, and then you've lost 2-3 hours of action. You manage your social media so that you don't become a consumer and you become a creator of products and services, so you can become the lazy CEO that leverages what everyone else is consuming from your knowledge.
Yeah. Just like I say, I'm going to go work for 45 minutes. I'm going to play for 15. So I'll give myself the break of scrolling TikTok for 15 minutes, but I watch the clock and go, okay, it's been 15 minutes, shut it down, go back to work. And so that takes some discipline to say I'm stopping it. Look, in the evening when I'm not working, I might go for an hour or 40 minutes or whatever, because I don't care. That's my time. I choose to use it that way. It's not maybe the most useful, but I might learn some things, and I do. I think everybody does, depending on what your feed looks like. But you've got to control your study breaks just like you control your work breaks, right? So if my work is going to be 45 minutes, my play is 15, but it's not 2 hours, it's 15. And nobody's perfect. Once in a while, I pop my head up and I go, ooh, it's been 45 minutes of scrolling mindless videos. I better get back to work. So that happens once in a while to everybody. And you can't beat yourself up too much over that. You go, well, I'm human. It happens. And I'll kind of double down. And as long as I get my 4 or 5 things done, it doesn't matter that I wasted 45 minutes.
Thank you. How do you develop this consistency and discipline? What mindset shift needs to happen so you can have that consistency of first, agreeing to a schedule that you're going to deliver on, so you can be productive over the long term, and secondly, being happy with your output as being okay, that it's okay not to do 100 things. It's better to do 4 that really move the needle and make a real difference to your company.
I think all CEOs have a mindset that they're going to really impact the world. Steve Jobs used to say, put a ding in the universe, basically. And there's a guy named Mike Vance, he's passed away, but he talks about when they make movies and they go every day, they look at what they shot that day. And over time, add up all those days and it makes a movie. Well, the same thing's true of our life. Right? Every day, every hour is what we shot that day, that hour to make up the movie of our lives. So if we want to make an amazing movie, right, we're going to make a big difference in the world. We're going to have amazing company. We're going to help huge numbers of people with our work. Then you've got to be disciplined to say every day has to be in that direction. Every day that's not in that direction reduces the probability I can make a difference in the world. And if that's your mission, your goal, what you think you're put on the earth for, then you got to go, I've got to keep my eye on that long-term goal, and I can't waste a day that doesn't bring me closer to that long-term goal. And now that doesn't mean you can't blow a day or you have vacation or whatever, but broadly, out of 365 days a year, of a big chunk of those are heading towards that long-term goal, then you're probably above average. And realize that most people don't think like that. So the fact that you're just thinking like every day matters towards that long-term goal and you're mostly heading in the right direction, you're probably already in the top 20% just with that, maybe even top 10%, because most people don't think like that. They're just living their lives, doing their thing. They don't think about where they're going. So if you put yourself in thin air already.
Thank you. Where's the best place for people to connect with you and get more resources about how they too can become a lazy, productive CEO?
They can grab my book, Great CEOs Are Lazy, on Amazon, of course. And then our company, we help CEOs grow their businesses with curated advisory boards, is theceoproject.com, theceoproject.com. We'd love to chat with them.
Thank you.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.